Good morning, my dear students, and a very warm welcome to all of you in this e-learning session. Friends, welcome to Science by Harsha ma'am. Now, try to recall which lesson we are doing. We are doing the lesson which is cell, structure, and function. Here is the animal cell. Now, let us have a quick recap at whatever part we have done. We are going to move very quickly. What is cell now? It is like a house. It is a complex structure in which various functions are carried out that are carried out in a house. So it is compared with a house. Now, what is cell? It is the basic structural and functional unit of life. If we talk about the two terms, which is cytology and cell biology, then these two terms are not at all the same. What are these two terms? Try to recall. If it is the study of structure and composition, then it is called as cytology. But if it is the study of structure and function as well as reproduction, then it is cell biology. Now, moving on the next part, that is the discovery of cell. It was Robert Hooke, this personality, who discovered cell by using the crude microscope that is given over here, and he mentioned about it in his book that is was termed as micrographia, which means minute handwriting. Moving on further, that is cell theory. It was Kevin and Skeldon who stated that all living things are made up of cells, that is, the cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. Next was Rudolf Virchow, who stated that all cells come from pre-existing cells, and this phenomena was discarded in case of spontaneous generation. And the term protoplasm, what it was given by? It was given by Purkinje. Moving on further, that is the principles of cell theory. These are the principles which we discuss right now. Moving on further, that is cell shape. Shape of the cell is depending upon the function it is carrying out. As in how the function is similar, is its shape. Okay. Depending upon the type of function it is having, it will have the shape. Let's move further upon the cell size. These are the things which you have to keep at the tip of your tongue. That means you have to memorize. If it's human liver, it's 20 micrometer. If it's RBC, then it's 7 micrometer. If it's acetabularia, then it's 10 centimeter. If it's the largest cell, that is the egg cell, ostrich, it is about 50 centimeter. If it is the longest cell, that is the nerve cell, then it is having the range of about 1 meter, and the smallest cell known so far are PPLO, that is mycoplasm, which are 0.1 micrometer in diameter. If it's human egg, it is about 0.1 millimeter in diameter. Next is the characteristics of all the cells. What does a cell generally have? As we have studied, it is having a surrounding membrane, which is called as cell membrane, and inside it is having a nucleus, and in between it is having cytoplasm, in which, if we talk about its contents and the thick fluid, then it is termed as protoplasm. How it is divided into two types. One is prokaryotic, another one is eukaryotic. In prokaryotic, what do you have? The cell does not contain any kind of nucleus or membrane bound organelles. Instead of these two things, what does it contain? It contains nucleoid, that is devoid of nucleus. Then comes eukaryotic. That means in eukaryotic cells, the membrane bound organelles are present and the nucleus with DNA is also present. Moving on further, how are the organisms divided on the basis of the number of cells? On the basis of number of cells, they are bifurcated into two parts. That is unicellular or multicellular. If we talk about unicellular, then those organisms which are having just one single cell and they are capable of performing different functions with the help of just one cell, then they are called as unicellular. But if many number of cells are present and those many number of cells are performing different functions, then that is called as multicellular. So that is stated over here. Then this is the part which you already know, and we had started with the plasma membrane in our previous lectures. Plasma membrane, it contains, it is also called as cell membrane. It is selective permeable membrane that allows entry and exit of only certain molecules, and what it is made up of, 75% of phospholipids and 25% of protein, and these proteins are embedded like this as shown over here. As you can see over here, the proteins over here, the one which is embedded outside it is extrinsic, the one which is inside that is intrinsic, and this is how they are bifurcated. And the reason they are bifurcated like this is very important for us, and this is how it allows only water, ammonia, carbon dioxide and oxygen to get in and come out. Hydrocarbons, they are not they are allowed to come inside, but they are not allowed to go out. Glucose and the ions, their movement you have started in the previous lectures in the active transport. So this is part which we have already discussed. Its functions, when it comes to functions, you have to memorize at the tip of your tongue, and that's the reason we are revising the content to this level. Function, it will give shape to the cell and it will compartmentalize the cell. That means it will divide it into two different segments. It will form the junction, and that junction is having a particular name. What is that junction name? Plasmodesmata. It is the selective permeable membrane because it allows entry and exit of only certain molecules. And what does it help in? It helps in tissue formation. These are the functions of cell membrane. This is the part with which we started in our last lecture, and it is a very important part. Okay, so now today's session we are going to move further in a particular topic, but before that we are going to study about this content once again bit slowly. Homeostasis, for example, early in the morning when you don't get up and your mother gives you one tight slap on your face, but that slap doesn't affect your studies. Okay, then what is that? Homeostasis. Whatever is the condition outside, inside the condition should not alter. That is maintaining homeostasis. Okay, I think now you are clear with the content. What is homeostasis? बाहर कुछ भी चल रहा हो, अंदर सेल के अंदर कोई भी वेरिएशंस कुछ भी होना चाहिए, बाहर का प्रभाव अंदर होना चाहिए नहीं. So whatever the teacher is explaining you, you are learning it properly only. Why? Because homeostasis is maintained. Okay, as I stated that early in the morning if you are not getting up and your mother gives you one on your face and still you understand what Harsha ma'am is teaching, then what is that? It's homeostasis. Now if we talk about the transport, then the transport can be done in two types. Either it is passive or it is active or it is bulk transport. Passive transport, that means the transport which does not need any kind of energy, and it is bifurcated into two types. And passive transport, it is because of the gradient, that means difference in three things. What are those three things? Concentration, pressure and charge. And it moves from high to low. Diffusion, you've already studied many times. That is movement of carbon dioxide inside our body and outside. Diffusion, in which the molecules they move to equalize the concentration. As you know that carbon dioxide is coming out of our body and oxygen is going inside our body. The fragrance of the flower is spreading and it helps in the pollination also. Transpiration, that means as you already know that the water molecules they evaporate from the tree. Then this is osmosis. What is osmosis? Very important from examination point of view, and that's the reason we are doing it in detail once again. It is a special form of diffusion. Here the fluid will flow from higher concentration to lower concentration as far as solvent is considered. But if it's solute, then it will be from lower to higher. I hope you remember the content. It often involves the movement of water into the cell and outside the cell. Now let us study about this part. Here it is, which we are going to study and which is a very important point. First of all, what is a solution? Here it is. There is a particular thing in which the thing which is less in proportion, what is generally called as solute. Suppose the salt in the water, then what is this called as? Solute, and the water will be called as solvent. And together the mixture, water will be called as solution. Okay, solute plus solvent, together the mixture, water will be called as solution. Now, this is how we define the term which is solution, as we have stated. Now let us study about the three different types of solution. Among them, the very first one is this hypotonic solution. Hypotonic solution. Here, suppose the solute is denoted by S and solvent is denoted by the dollar sign. Okay. Now here, what will happen? The solvent, this is the cell and these are the conditions of it outside. Okay. Now, be over here. Here, read this. Solute in cell is more than outside. That means inside solute is more. So suppose solute is 0.7 and solvent will be 0.3. Okay. So total is always 1. Remember. अब solute बाहर कितना होगा? 0.3 and solvent 0.7. What will be the solvent outside? It will be 0.7. Now, what is less inside the cell? It is solvent. So, solvent will go from outside the cell to inside the cell. The solvent will go from outside the cell to inside the cell, and what will happen to the cell? The cell will swell up. What will happen to the cell? It will swell up. In isotonic solution, there is no problem itself. In isotonic solution, what happens is over here, both solute and solvent proportion is supposed to say 0.5. Here also it will be 0.5. Outside solute is 0.5, solvent is 0.5. There will be no movement inside or outside the cell, and that's why it will remain stable. Then comes hypertonic solution. What happens in hypertonic solution? Opposite to what we discussed. The solvent is supposed more over here and solute is 0.3. Then solvent will go from higher to lower. That means here if it is 0.7 and outside if it is 0.3, then it will go from high to low. This is how here the cell will shrink. Remember this important point. Concentration is in terms of solute always, but osmosis is in terms of solvent. मतलब जब आप बोलते हो ना, it moves from higher concentration to lower concentration. In your book it is written that in hypotonic solution from low to high the solute moves. But more correct is in hypotonic type of solution, the solvent is going from high to low. And if it's solute, it will be low to high. Okay. So I hope you are clear with the content. Now let's move further. This is how what we discussed. Hypotonic, it will get swollen up. This is the normal one, and if it's hypertonic, then it will move out. Let's move further on the next part, that is the active transport. We have already discussed about it in our previous lecture. Example, you can see it is the sodium as well as potassium. They are providing lots of energy to get inside the cell because the plasma membrane is not going to allow the cells to get inside. Then comes endocytosis. Endocytosis, it is a type of bulk transport. Now, what is bulk transport? Bulk transport means in higher proportion when the molecule movements is happening. It can be anything, but it is in the larger proportion. Endo means going inside and exo means going outside. We have already discussed that how phagocytosis and pinocytosis happens. Pinocytosis, cell drinking. Phagocytosis, cell eating. This is how they get diffused and they come inside. Remember this. Exocytosis means it will discharge the material outside the cell. We have done this. Coming to the next part, that is cell wall. We have also done this in detail. But today, because this content which we did, osmosis, is very important from examination point of view, we have to discuss it again. Moving further on the cell wall, where they are found, cell wall, they are found in plants, fungi and many protista. They are around the plasma membrane. As you can see over here, this extra layer, that is of cell wall. In plants, it is made up of cellulose, and in fungi, what it is made up of? Chitin. Do not pronounce it as chitin. What it is in fungi made up of? Chitin. Cell wall. If we talk about cell wall, then here are important points about the cell wall. It is the outermost covering of all the plant cells, and where it is absent in animal cells. How it is? It is rigid, semi-transparent, thick. It is strong, thick, and porous. The two adjacent cells, they are joined by a layer which is called as lamella, and that lamella is made up of calcium pectin or magnesium pactate. These are the things of which this particular middle lamella is made up of. Some plants, they have one extra cell wall that is called as dead cell wall, and that is made up of cutin, lignin and suberin, about which you are going to study in tissue lesson. Function of cell wall. It provides proper shape to the cell, provides strength to the cell. It is permeable, and so it will allow entry and exit of properly everything because it is permeable. It will provide the turgor pressure during osmosis. That is the pressure from inside. Cell does not burst due to excessive pressure of water that is entering into the cell, and that is, it is maintaining the turgor pressure. If that is not there, then the cell may burst out. Cytoplasm. We have already discussed about it. That is, it is a viscous fluid that is containing the organelles. It has components like filaments, fibers, and the organelles and some storage substance. The fluid is given a particular name, that is cytosol, SOL. Here you can see it's three types of fibers: microfilament, microtubules, and intermediate filament. As you can see, the microfilament, they are a bit small, microtubule, they are a bit bigger in size, and intermediate filament, they are in between. The three types of fibers are shown over here, and it has three basic functions. And what are those three basic functions? They are, it will provide the mechanical support, it will anchor all the organelles, and it will help the substances to move. This is how cytoskeleton is. This is how you can see that one mitochondria will not go and affect the other mitochondria just because of this fact. That is, it is allowing properly to stand like these tubules are allowing, so that the two mitochondria will not collide with each other, or any two organelles will not collide with each other. These are the three parts. Moving on, the today's content, which is the nucleus. So let's start on with the nucleus. If we talk about nucleus, then what is actually nucleus? As you have studied it, that it is a control center of the cell. Moreover, you can see its diagrammatic view over here. It is having two membranes. Only one nuclear membrane is not there. How many are there? Two. Nuclear membrane, that is called as nuclear membrane or nuclear envelope. Then, as in cell, you are calling it as cell membrane. For nucleus, what you will call it as nuclear membrane. What other things it is possessing? Let's have a look at it. Nucleoplasm, that means the fluid which is present. Chromosome, they are the particles which are having the hereditary material. We are going to study about all these four in detail just now. Nucleolus, it is a small spherical body which is present inside the nucleus. Like a cell has in its center nucleus, in the same way nucleus in its center is having nucleolus, which is made up of RNA. You can note down this content. How it is having, these are some basic points. It is the control center of the cell. It is having two membranes and it is containing four main things, and about these four things we are going to study. Which are those four things? They are nuclear envelope, nucleoplasm, chromosome and nucleolus. Please note it down. Let's move further. Nuclear envelope. As you already know that nucleus is having two membranes, and that outer membrane, what it is called as nuclear envelope. What is the function of nuclear envelope? It will separate the nucleus from the rest part of the cell. Okay, so that directly the things don't enter inside the nucleus, and it is having its own darvajo, that is called as nuclear membrane. It will separate the nucleus from the rest of the cell. It is having two membranes, that means it is a double layered thing. Moreover, it has pores, as you can see over here. This pores. These are the pores. Small, tiny pores. What is the function of these pores now? These pores will allow the entry and exit of certain molecules. Over here, inside, it is having nucleolus, which is made up of RNA. This is about the nuclear pore. It is a double membrane, that means it has two membranes, as you can see over here. One inside and one outside. And what? It is connected to ER. Now what is this ER? This ER stands for endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, what does this ER stands for? Endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, nuclear envelope, it will separate the nucleus from the rest of the cell. It is having double membrane, it has pores, and it is connected to endoplasmic reticulum. This is all about the nuclear envelope. Please note it down. Has pores which will allow the movement inside and outside the cell. And about the endoplasmic reticulum, we are going to study in detail. Be quick and note the content. I hope you have noted it down. Now, let's move further on nucleolus. Some cells may have two or more than two nucleolus. What is this nucleolus? As you can see, the small spherical body which is prevailing inside the nucleus is called as nucleolus. Its basic reason is it is at the center, as you can see over here, and it is made up of RNA. Because it is made up of RNA, it will form ribosomes and it does not contain any kind of membrane. That means it lacks membrane. As you can see its diagrammatic view over here. This is the nucleus, and inside nucleus a small spherical body without any kind of membrane is called as nucleolus. And that nucleolus is made up of RNA, and so it will form ribosomes and it will lack the membrane. This is about the nucleolus. Please note it down. I hope it's done. Moving further on the chromatin material. Now thread-like structures, they are tangling inside the nucleus. What is this thread-like structure called as? What is actually a chromosome and how this name has come up? Chromocolored body. It contains of two things, and that two things are DNA and protein. And they're seen as chromosomes when they are highly condensed in the preparation of cell division. And at the other times, it is like a thread structure. Okay, now what is that? Let me explain you. If we talk about a nucleus, then inside the nucleus, there's this nucleolus. This is nucleus. Entire. This is nucleolus. Now here, in the fluid present, the thread-like structures are there. During thread-like structure, during the cell division, that means from one cell another cell is cropping up, and about the cell division we are having in at the end of the lesson. There is mitosis and meiosis, the two formations by which the cell gets divided. During the cell division, all these thread-like structures will combine and they will form a chromosome like this. Its structure is. Here there will be its center part and at the bottom. In detail, like this. The thread-like structures will combine and they'll form a chromosome, which is generally denoted like this in the form of X. So, the DNA and protein, they are formed in the form of thread-like structures which are called as chromatids. During cell division, it will combine and it will be called as chromosome. And the either part of the chromatid, that is this are called as its arms. Okay, and this is how it will look like. Very important part. The thread-like structures which are tangling in the nucleus, they are called as chromatids. And when they will combine, what will they form? Chromosome. And on the chromosome, on its either part, what do you call it as? Arm. Once again, the thread-like structures are called as chromatid. During cell division, they will combine and they will form, see here it is written, chromosome. When they are highly condensed in the preparation for cell division, what is formed is chromosome. Colored body that is made up of DNA and protein, and it is seen as chromosome. When highly condensed together, it is combining during the cell division. Okay, so this is the meaning of the terms which are given in your textbook. I hope you are clear now. Thread-like structures, chromatid. When the chromatids combine, it's called chromosome. And these chromosomes are having two arms. And what are they made up of? DNA and protein. So, this is the content about the chromatin material. Please note it down. I hope the content of the chromatin is noted. Let's move further upon the DNA. What is this DNA now? The DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acids. its full form is very much important. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. These are the hereditary material and its segments. What are they forming? Genes. What are these genes now? The genes are the hereditary units. And they may be in the terms of haploid or diploid. Now, what is the meaning of this word haploid and diploid? Haploid means like this, half of the structure, and diploid means like this, entire one. This is haploid, and if it has all the four arms, then this is diploid. If you want to represent haploid, then it is denoted by just one, this single arm. Diploid, then it is denoted by like this, the double arms. So what is the full form of DNA? Full form of DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. It contains the hereditary material, and these hereditary materials are called as genes. What is the function of these genes? Now it will transmit the hereditary characteristics from parents to offspring. The haploid is denoted by this single part, and diploid means the double one. So please note down this content very quickly. I hope you have written. RNA stands for ribonucleic acid. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. So that is about the part which we have done today. After that, we are having the organelle endoplasmic reticulum, which we are going to study in our next lecture. Let's have a quick look at the nucleus, which we have done today. Nucleus, it is the control center of the cell, and it is having two basic functions, that it will control all the activities which are happening within the cell, as well as it will transfer the hereditary characteristics from parents to offspring. It contains four things: nuclear envelope, nucleoplasm, chromosome, and nucleolus. If we talk about nuclear envelope, then it will separate the nucleus from the rest of the cell. It is a double membrane. It has pores, that means tiny particles from which anything can come inside or go outside, and what it is connected to: endoplasmic reticulum, about which we are going to study in our further lecture. Nucleolus, it can be two or more, completely made up of RNA, and it will help in protein synthesis. It does not contain any membrane. Chromatin material, thread-like structures which are tangling in the nucleus, they are called as chromatids. These chromatids, when they will combine during the cell division, it will be called as chromosome, and its either part is called as arm. DNA, these are the hereditary material, and its segments, the hereditary units, are called as genes. It may be haploid or diploid. If the upper two layers are there, then it is haploid. If both are there, then it is a diploid. So in our today's homework, you have to write the short note on nucleus. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening to me, and have a very good day. That's all. Bye-bye.